Hey everyone! So, companies are pouring billions and billions of dollars into AI, right? But here's the crazy part. A shocking number of those projects just fizzle out. They end up as these super expensive science experiments that never actually deliver any real value. So today, we're going to break down a blueprint that completely flips that script. It's all about de-risking your AI projects by putting business value first, right from the very beginning.
Okay, so let's just get right into it. This is the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? You see these brilliant data science teams, they're building these incredibly complex, amazing models, but when it's time for that model to actually impact the bottom line, you hear crickets. The whole thing stalls out, gets put on a shelf, or just never ever makes it out of the lab. It's a colossal waste of time, money, and frankly, a ton of talent.
And this quote right here, it just absolutely nails the core of the problem. When you treat an AI project like it's just a science fair experiment, stuck in some perfect, clean lab setting, it's practically set up to fail, because that's not the real world. The real world is messy. So the big takeaway here, you have to be designing for production from day one.
So what's the fix? Well, it starts with what we're calling a business-first blueprint. I want you to think of this as your pre-flight checklist for any AI project. Before anyone writes a single line of code, before you even start dreaming about which cool algorithm you're going to use, you have to ground the entire project in business reality. And you do that by asking some really fundamental questions.
This right here is the #1 trap that teams fall into. They get really excited about some cool new piece of technology, and then they run around trying to find a problem for it to solve. That is completely backward. Real, actual success begins with a crystal clear business objective. You have to start with the why, not the how.
So this whole framework really boils down to 4 foundational questions. First, you define the actual business need. What problem are we solving? From there, you have to justify why you need an AI or cognitive solution. Why can't a simple spreadsheet or a basic app do the job? Then, and this is huge, you define what success actually looks like. How will you measure it? And finally, you have to get real about your constraints, your budget, your timeline, the people you have.
So how do you do a quick gut check on your idea? Here's a little checklist. First, does it solve a real, pressing, short-term need? Then ask yourself, does this really need AI? Does it require something like pattern recognition or prediction that a human would normally have to do? And a great final test is the 4Ds rule. Is the task you're trying to automate either dull, dear, meaning really expensive, dangerous, or demeaning? If you're checking these boxes, you've probably got a pretty strong candidate for an AI project.
Okay, so you've got a solid business case. Awesome. Now comes the testing phase, and this, my friends, is where so many projects take a fatal wrong turn. It's all about focusing on the right kind of validation. It's time to pilot your project, not just putter around with it. And this is the critical distinction you need to understand, the difference between a proof of concept, a POC, and a pilot. Look, a POC is a lab experiment. It's designed to prove a theory using perfect, clean data. A pilot, on the other hand, is a dress rehearsal for the real world. It uses your actual, messy, real-world data, and it has to interact with your real production systems. Pilots tell you what will actually work. POCs only tell you what's theoretically possible.
This is exactly why your goal should always be a minimum viable product, or an MVP, that you deliver through a pilot program. You want to get a small-scale, but real, version of your solution out there and working as quickly as possible. Seriously, this shift in mindset, from lab experiment to real-world implementation, is a total game changer. Okay, so once you're fully committed to this business-first, pilot-driven approach, the next question is a strategic one. Which project do you actually pick to get the fastest win? Well, the answer is all about mapping the type of project you're considering to its likely return on investment. This timeline is a fantastic way to think about it. Over on the left, you have augmented intelligence. These are tools that help humans do their jobs better, faster, smarter. These projects tend to have the quickest ROI because they just make existing workflows more efficient. In the middle, you have predictive analytics, which takes a bit longer to prove out. And way over on the right, you have fully autonomous systems. Those are the long-term bets that require a ton of investment and a lot of patience before you see a payoff. So, if you're looking for that AI fast track, these are your targets. Think about adding a layer of intelligence to something you already do. Maybe adding predictive features to an app you already have, or using a chatbot for common customer questions. Or maybe using computer vision to digitize documents and forms. All of these kinds of projects can provide immediate, measurable value.
You know, all this talk about quick wins brings up a really big question, especially today. With all the incredible power of generative AI, can we now just shortcut this whole process? And the answer is, well, yes, but only for certain types of problems.
These days, these incredibly powerful foundation models can handle a lot of common AI tasks right out of the box. I'm talking about things like building a really good chatbot, summarizing long documents, or recognizing what's in an image. You no longer have to build a custom model from scratch for these things, and that can slash your development time for these kinds of applications.
But let's be real for a second. Generative AI is not a magic wand that works for everything. Those highly specialized autonomous systems like self-driving cars or really complex goal-driven systems, they still need massive custom development. And while things are moving fast, you can't just shortcut these with a simple API call, at least not yet.
All right, let's pull all these ideas together into one final actionable decision-making tool. This is your ultimate checkpoint before you start committing serious time and money. This is the final go/no-go decision.
The principle here is actually really simple. To move forward on a project with real confidence, you absolutely need to have a green light, a big thumbs up, across three very specific, very critical areas.
And here they are, the three keys. First, business feasibility, which we covered back in Section 1. Is there a real business need? Second, data feasibility. Do you actually have the data you need to make this work? And third, technology and execution feasibility. Do you have the right team and the right tools to actually build the thing? If even one of these is a red light, you have to hit the brakes. So, let's break that down into a final checklist of questions for yourself. For business, is our objective totally clear? And is AI really the only way to solve this? For data, do we have enough data? Is it good quality data? And for technology, does our team actually have the skills to pull this off? You need to have a confident yes for all of these before you move forward. But listen, even if you have 3 green lights, there is one more foundational layer that you absolutely cannot ignore. In today's world, this can be the ultimate roadblock, making sure your AI is trustworthy. And this isn't just a final check. It has to be part of the conversation from the very, very beginning. And these aren't just boxes to tick. These are non-negotiable questions. Is your system fair? Who is accountable if this thing is misused? Can you actually explain how it's making its decisions? And can it be governed and audited properly? A no to any of these should be a full stop on the project. Period. And that really brings us to the end. We've walked through a blueprint that can take you from just a vague idea to a really confident go/no-go decision. It's all about prioritizing business value, demanding real-world testing, and insisting on responsible implementation. So I guess the final question is for you. Using this framework, is your AI project truly ready for prime time?